The first light of dawn hadn't yet kissed the rooftops of Glevum when Alar, the town's silent guardian, felt the city's pulse quicken under his feet. He stood atop the ancient watchtower, a relic from a time when dragons were more than just myths whispered in taverns. The air was thick with an unusual fog, not the kind born from the river's breath, but one that seemed to weave secrets into the very fabric of the morning. Alar's eyes, sharp as the falcons he sometimes envied, scanned the horizon. Something was amiss. The birds were silent, the usual cacophony of morning life muted as if under a spell. His gaze fell on the old market square, where a figure moved with unnatural grace, a shadow that slithered rather than walked. Intrigue wrapped around his heart like a vine, urging him to investigate. As he descended from the tower, his mind raced through the possibilities. Glevum was a city of secrets, built upon layers of history where each stone held a story. But this morning's anomaly felt different, like the prelude to an ancient song long forgotten. The market square was empty, save for the odd figure he'd glimpsed from above. Closer now, Alar could see it was a woman, her attire from an era long past, her hair a cascade of silver moonlight even in the dim morning light. She seemed to be searching, her movements desperate yet precise, her eyes scanning the ground as if looking for something lost centuries ago. Alar kept his distance, his instincts telling him this was no ordinary encounter. He remembered the tales of the whisper of shadows, spirits from Glevum's past who occasionally resurfaced, seeking closure or perhaps vengeance. Could this be one of those spectral figures, bound to the city by unfinished business? The woman paused, her head tilting as if listening to something only she could hear. Ilar's heart skipped a beat when she turned, her gaze meeting his. Her eyes were not human. They were pools of starlight, vast and ancient. Without a word, she gestured to the ground, where the fog seemed to part, revealing an old, ornate key lying amidst the cobblestones. Compelled by a force he couldn't name, Alar approached, his every step measured, his mind alert for any sign of danger. As he bent to pick up the key, the woman vanished like mist under the sun's first rays, leaving only the echo of her presence and a whisper that seemed to say, "Unlock the past, or be forever locked within it." The key was heavy in his hand, cold and pulsating with a life of its own. It was not just metal, it was a gateway, a promise of secrets, and perhaps peril. Alar knew he had to discover where this key belonged, what door it would unlock, and why now, after all these years, had it chosen to reveal itself. He glanced around, the city waking but oblivious to the enigma unfolding in its heart. The market traders would soon fill the square, the sounds of life would drown out the whispers of the past, but Alar knew he was now part of a narrative far older than the city itself. With the key safely hidden in his cloak, Alar set off to unravel the mystery, his mind already piecing together fragments of history he thought he knew. But as the sun rose, casting long shadows through the narrow streets of Glevum, he couldn't shake the feeling that some shadows whispered secrets not meant to be heard, and that the past was not just history, but a living, breathing entity, waiting to be awakened. With the key's cold weight pressing against his chest, Alar made his way through the awakening city, his thoughts a whirlwind of questions. He needed answers, and the only place he knew to start was with Lysandra, the city's keeper of lore and secrets, whose house was as much a library as it was a home. Lysandra's abode was nestled at the end of a narrow alley where the morning light barely dared to trespass. The door creaked open before Alar could knock, revealing the librarian, her eyes bright with curiosity behind her spectacles. "Alar, you look as if you've seen a ghost," Lysandra greeted, her voice a melody of concern and intrigue. "Perhaps I have," Alar replied, pulling out the key. "Found this in the square. It's no ordinary key, Lysandra. I saw something." Her eyes widened as she took the key, examining it with a scholar's meticulousness. This is from the time of the Shadowed Throne. It's said to open the Vault of Ages, a place where truths are kept that could shake Glevum to its core. Alar watched her, his pulse quickening. "And where might this vault be?" Lysandra's gaze met his, a storm of thought behind her calm exterior. "The legends speak of a hidden chamber beneath the old cathedral, but no one has seen it for centuries. If this key fits, we might uncover secrets meant to stay buried." Their journey to the old cathedral was fraught with silence, each step weighed by the gravity of their mission. The cathedral, with its ancient stones, seemed to watch them with judgmental eyes. Inside, the air was cool, laden with the scent of incense and thyme. "We need to find the altar of the forgotten saint," Lysandra whispered, her voice echoing in the vast emptiness. They moved through the nave, their footsteps the only sound until they reached a small, dust-covered alcove. Here, an altar lay, neglected by time, adorned with symbols of an era when gods were many. Alar felt a shiver as he inserted the key into what appeared to be a mere decorative slot. It turned with a resistance that spoke of long disuse, and with a soft click, part of the stone floor shifted, revealing stairs descending into darkness. Lysandra handed Alar a lantern, her expression one of both excitement and fear. "Be wary, Alar. The past guards its secrets jealously." As they descended, the air grew colder, the walls whispering with the voices of those long gone. At the bottom, they found themselves in a chamber lined with ancient artifacts, each whispering stories of power and betrayal. In the center stood a large, sealed chest, its lock matching the key's intricate design. Alar's hand trembled as he unlocked it, the lid creaking open to reveal scrolls, maps, and a single, glowing orb. Lysandra gasped. "The Orb of Clarity! It's said to reveal truths hidden by time itself." She gently lifted it, and as she did, the room seemed to shimmer, reality bending around them. Images flashed before their eyes. A war, not of swords but of shadows, fought in the very streets of Glevum. They saw the rise of the Shadowed Throne, its rulers using dark arts to control and manipulate. And there, in the heart of the vision, was the woman Alar had seen, a queen betrayed by her own kin. As the visions faded, Alar felt a connection, not just to the city's history, but to this woman who seemed to call to him across time. Who was she, Lysandra? A queen of the Shadowed Throne, wronged and forgotten. Her name was Alara. If she's reaching out, it means her story, our history, is not yet over. The revelation hung in the air, a thread of intrigue that now bound Alar and Lysandra to a past that demanded justice, or perhaps revenge. They knew now that their journey was just beginning, with truths waiting to be unearthed, and perhaps a ghost seeking redemption. The air was thick with the scent of history as Alar and Lysandra emerged from the Vault of Ages, the Orb of Clarity safely tucked away in a bag Lysandra carried. The cathedral above seemed different now, charged with the weight of secrets they had just uncovered. "We need to keep this quiet, Lysandra. If anyone knows we've tampered with the past, it might stir up more than just dust," Alar cautioned, his eyes darting around as if expecting shadows to leap from the corners. Lysandra nodded, her face a mask of contemplation.
Indeed, but we must understand what we've seen. Alara's story, her betrayal, it's connected to Glevum's current plight. I need to consult the old texts. There might be more to this than we've seen.
Their conversation was cut short by the sudden clatter of footsteps echoing through the cathedral's vast space. A figure appeared at the entrance, cloaked in darkness, moving with an urgency that spoke of trouble. "Quick, this way!" Alar hissed, pulling Lysandra towards a side door that led to the labyrinthine underbelly of the cathedral. They barely made it through when the figure called out, "Alar, guardian of Glevum, don't run from your fate." Recognizing the voice, Alar halted. "Thane, what brings you here at this hour?" Thane, a fellow guardian known for his sharp wit and sharper blade, approached, his face a mix of concern and confusion. "I followed you from Lysandra's. You've been seen with something ancient, something that's stirring the shadows. What have you found?" Alar exchanged a glance with Lysandra, who gave a small, reluctant nod. "We've uncovered the Vault of Ages," Alar explained, keeping details to a minimum. "It's about Alara, the Forgotten Queen. Her story might be the key to understanding the unrest in Glevum." Thane listened, his eyes narrowing. "And you think it's wise to delve into such matters without the Council's knowledge? There's danger in resurrecting the past." Before they could reply, a chilling wind swept through the corridor, carrying whispers that seemed to speak directly to them. A shadow moved, not cast by any light, but by itself, slithering towards them. "By the gods!" Lysandra muttered, gripping the orb tighter. "It's her, Alara's spirit or something akin." The shadow coalesced into the form of the woman Alar had seen in the square, her eyes once again pools of starlight, but now filled with urgency. "You must stop him," she whispered, her voice echoing in their minds. "My brother, King Valthor. He's not dead.
He's been waiting, biding his time." Alar's mind raced. "Her brother? The one who betrayed her?" Thane, visibly shaken, drew his sword. "If he's alive, he's the source of the dark magic plaguing Glevum. We need to find him before he finds us." The shadow Alara pointed towards the crypts beneath the cathedral. "He's there, where I was entombed. He uses my death to fuel his power." Without another word, they moved towards the crypts, each step a dance with danger. The air grew colder, the walls adorned with carvings that seemed to watch them, tales of betrayal and power. In the heart of the crypts, they found a hidden chamber, its entrance sealed by dark magic. Thane, with his knowledge of ancient runes, began to dismantle the spell, his hands glowing with counter-charms. As the seal broke, a roar of dark energy burst forth, revealing King Valthor, not as a decrepit figure, but one preserved by dark arts, his eyes burning with malice. "You've come for me, have you?" Valthor sneered, his voice a cacophony of hate. "You think to challenge what I've built?" Alar stepped forward, the key in his hand, now feeling like a weapon. "We challenge the lies you've woven into our city's fabric. Your reign ends today, Valthor." What followed was a clash of wills, of light against dark. Lysandra activated the Orb of Clarity, its light piercing through Valthor's defenses, revealing his true, decaying form. Thane fought with ferocity, his blade aimed at the heart of the corruption. The battle was fierce, but as Valthor weakened, Alara's spirit appeared once more, lending strength to their cause. With a final, desperate spell,
Valthor was vanquished, his body crumbling to dust, the dark magic dissipating with his last breath. Breathing heavily, Alar looked at his companions. It's not over. This, he gestured to the remnants of Valthor, was just the beginning. Glevum has more secrets to reveal. Lysandra, holding the orb, nodded. And we'll uncover them. For Alara, for Glevum, and for truth. As they left the crypts, the city above was unaware of the battle that had just secured its future. But for Alar, Lysandra, and Thane, the journey into the heart of Glevum's shadows had only deepened, promising more mysteries, more dangers, and, perhaps, more redemption. The sun had barely risen over Glevum when Alar, Lysandra, and Thane reconvened in the small, hidden room behind Lysandra's library, a sanctuary for their newfound alliance. The air was thick with the scent of old books and the lingering tension from their encounter with Valthor. We've dealt with the immediate threat, but this city is layered with secrets, Alar began, his voice low but resolute. Alara's spirit mentioned her brother, as if he were part of something larger. Lysandra, her fingers tracing the contours of the orb of clarity, nodded. Indeed. Valthor was a pawn, perhaps, but who or what was moving him? We need to delve deeper into the history of the Shadowed Throne, the true extent of their power. Thane, cleaning his sword with an almost ceremonial care, interjected, and we must do it quietly. Valthor's defeat might have echoed in the shadows, alerting others of our meddling. Their discussion was interrupted by a sudden gust that seemed to carry voices, whispers that were both ancient and urgent. Alar moved to the window, his eyes scanning the sky. The wind speaks today. It's not just the weather. It's warning us. Lysandra joined him, her gaze thoughtful. The winds of Glevum have always been more than mere air. They are the breath of the city, its memory. If they're speaking, it's for a reason. They decided to follow the wind's call, leading them to the outskirts of Glevum, where the old windmills stood, relics from a time when magic was openly harnessed. As they approached, the air was charged with static, the windmills creaking with an energy that felt alive. A figure awaited them, hooded and cloaked in a fabric that seemed to blend with the wind itself. You hear the whispers too, the figure said, revealing a face weathered by time and knowledge. I am Orin, the last of the wind callers. The winds have spoken of your deeds in the crypts. Alar stepped forward, cautious. Why should we trust you? Orin's eyes, clear and piercing, met his. Because we serve the same purpose, to protect Glevum from those who would misuse its ancient powers. Valthor was but a symptom of a deeper malaise. Lysandra, ever the scholar, was intrigued. What do you know of the Shadowed Throne? Much, Orin replied, but little that can be freely spoken. The winds have shown me fragments. There's another, someone or something guiding the remnants of the throne's power. They seek to reclaim what was lost, to reignite a war that never truly ended. Thane, ever the tactician, asked, Where do we start? Orin turned, gesturing to the largest windmill. Within there lies a map, drawn by the first windcaller, showing paths to hidden knowledge, places where the truth of the Shadowed Throne is kept. Inside the windmill, they found a room untouched by time, where a map was etched into the stone floor, glowing faintly with a magic that seemed to pulse with the wind outside. The map depicted Glevum and its surroundings, marked with symbols that Lysandra recognized from her studies. Here, she pointed to a symbol near the mountains. This could be the ruins of Eldar, a place where the old kings of the Shadowed Throne once retreated for counsel or concealment.
And this,
Orin added, indicating another symbol. The Whispering Grotto, where the winds converge, a place of power and prophecy. Their plan was set. They would visit these sites to gather more clues about their hidden enemy. But, as they prepared to leave, a sudden, unnatural silence fell, the wind ceasing as if holding its breath. Orin's face grew stern. We've been too loud or too slow. Something approaches, not of this time or place. From outside, a shadow darker than night began to spread, moving against the wind, a harbinger of the forces they sought to uncover. Alar drew his weapon, Thane readied his, and Lysandra clutched the orb tightly. We must be quick, Orin urged, but we must also be wise. The enemy seeks to erase the past to control the future. We must ensure history speaks. With that, they left the windmill, the shadow encroaching, their journey into the heart of Glevum's mystery only just beginning, with each step leading deeper into the shadows of time and power. The journey to the ruins of Eldar was fraught with an eerie silence that hung over the group like a shroud. Each step they took through the mountain paths was measured, the air thick with anticipation and the whisper of ancient secrets. We're close, Lysandra whispered, her eyes scanning the horizon where the jagged peaks gave way to what once was a fortress. The ruins of Eldar, where the old kings hid their darkest secrets, his hand never far from his sword, nodded. We must tread carefully. If these ruins are what we believe, they'll be guarded by more than just time. As they approached, the ruins loomed before them, half swallowed by the earth, the stones whispering of past glories and betrayals. The air was colder here, infused with a magic that seemed to pulse from the very ground. Orin, his gaze distant, spoke. This place was more than a retreat. It was a vault for the darkest arts of the shadowed throne. Alar felt a shiver, not from the cold, but from the weight of history around them.
Let's find what we came for before whatever guards this place finds us.
They ventured deeper, the ruins echoing their footsteps. Inside, they found chambers adorned with ominous runes, the walls depicting scenes of war and sorcery. In the heart of the ruins, they stumbled upon a sealed chamber, its door marked with symbols of silence and secrecy. Lysandra examined the door. These are seals meant to keep something in, not out. We need to break them carefully. Orin, with his connection to the wind, whispered ancient words, the air around them stirring as if in response. The seals glowed faintly, then shattered, revealing a room filled with artifacts of power and a large, ancient tome at its center. Thane approached the tome, his voice hushed with reverence.
This could be the Chronicle of Shadows, detailing the lineage and secrets of the shadowed throne.
Lysandra reached out, her fingers tracing the book's cover. Let's see what truths it holds. As she opened it, the room's atmosphere shifted, shadows moving of their own accord, whispers filling the air. The pages were filled with names, spells, and dark pacts, but one name caught their attention repeatedly. Nero, the Shadow Weaver. Orin's face darkened. Nero was thought to be a myth, a figure of legend meant to be the ultimate manipulator of shadows. If he's real and still alive, we've underestimated our foe. The room began to hum, the shadows growing more substantial, forming shapes that looked almost human, but with eyes like voids.
We've disturbed more than dust,
Alar warned, drawing his weapon. The shadow figures attacked, moving with unnatural speed and silence. Thane engaged them, his blade cutting through the darkness with a light that seemed to come from within. Lysandra, using the orb of clarity, chanted words of binding, her magic trying to constrain the shadows. Orin called upon the wind, his voice a bridge between the past and present, the gusts tearing at the shadows, dispersing them into wisps. These are guardians of the past, bound to protect this knowledge from those who would misuse it. As the last shadow dissipated, they realized the room had changed, revealing another exit, one that hadn't been there before.
A test, perhaps, or a trap, Ilar mused.
Lysandra, clutching the chronicle, shook her head.
No, I think this is an escape, a way out for those who pass the trial.
They moved through the new passage, emerging on the other side of the ruins, the sky now dark with the threat of a storm. Orin looked back at the ruins, his expression grave.
We've learned much, but at what cost? Nero, if he lives, will know we've uncovered his secrets.
Thane, his gaze on the horizon, said,
Then we must be swift, for the hunt has truly begun, not just for us, but for the truth of Glevum's darkest past.
With the Chronicle of Shadows in hand, they set off towards the next marker on their map, the Whispering Grotto, the wind now howling a warning or perhaps an encouragement, as if the very elements of Glevum were now part of their quest. The journey to the Whispering Grotto was marked by a tense silence, each member of the group lost in thought, contemplating the revelations from the ruins of Eldar. The forest around them began to thin, giving way to a landscape of stark beauty where the wind sang through rock formations, leading them to a hidden valley.
This must be it,
Lysandra murmured, her eyes scanning the natural amphitheater formed by the surrounding cliffs, where the wind seemed to converge. Orin nodded, his face etched with concentration.
The grotto is alive with the whispers of the past. We must listen carefully.
As they descended into the valley, the air grew thick with magic, the wind carrying voices that weren't their own. At the center stood a cave, its entrance shrouded in a mist that danced with the light of an unseen source. Thane, ever vigilant, drew his sword. Be ready. This place feels like it's waiting for us. Entering the cave, they found themselves in a vast chamber, the walls lined with crystals that amplified the whispers into a chorus of secrets. The grotto seemed to pulse with energy, the ground beneath them vibrating gently. Alar, his senses alert, pointed to a series of symbols carved into the floor. Look, these match the ones on the map. They must activate something. Lysandra, with the Chronicle of Shadows open, began to decipher the symbols.
These are coordinates in time, not just space. We need to align them with the current moment to reveal something.
Just as she finished her sentence, the ground shook, the crystals glowing brighter, and a section of the wall slid away, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, they found an ancient altar, atop which sat a crystal clear, unlike any in the grotto, glowing with an inner light. Orin approached cautiously. This could be the heart of Glevum, the source of the city's magical ley lines. Disturbing it could have dire consequences. But before they could decide, the air shifted, shadows coalescing into figures at the entrance. You thought you could delve into our secrets without consequence. A voice echoed, the shadows forming into beings of dark energy, their leader stepping forward with eyes that seemed to suck in all light.
Nero,
Thane growled, recognizing the name from the chronicle.
You're the puppet master behind Valthor.
Nero laughed, a sound like nails on stone. "Puppet Master? No, I am the weaver of fate, and you've just stepped into my web." The battle erupted without warning. Alar and Thane engaged the shadow creatures, their blades clashing with magic and shadow. Lysandra, with the orb of clarity, focused on protecting the heart of Glevum, countering Nero's dark spells with bursts of light. Orin, using the wind, attempted to disrupt Nero's control over his minions, but the Shadow Weaver was formidable, his magic bending the very shadows to his will. "You cannot undo what has been woven," Nero taunted, his eyes fixed on Lysandra. "The past, the present, all will bend to my design." With a desperate move, Lysandra activated the heart of Glevum, its light exploding outward, blinding and purifying. The shadow creatures screamed, dissipating into the air, but Nero, with a dark shield, retreated, his laughter echoing through the cave. "You've only delayed the inevitable," he called out, his form fading into the darkness. "Glevum will be mine." As the light receded, the group was left in a chamber now calm, but still charged with power. "We've bought time," Lysandra said, breathless. "But at what cost?" Alar, looking around at the now peaceful grotto, replied, "We've learned where our true battle lies. Nero won't stop, and neither can we." Thane sheathed his sword, his expression one of resolve. "We need to return to Glevum, prepare for what's coming. This isn't just about the past, it's about the future of our city." With the heart of Glevum now resonating with their purpose, they left the grotto, the whispers of the wind now sounding like a chorus of support, urging them forward into the heart of the storm that awaited. The return to Glevum was marked by a foreboding silence, the streets unusually quiet, as if the city itself held its breath, aware of the encroaching darkness. The sky was a tapestry of ominous clouds, the sun barely piercing through, casting long shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. Alar, Lysandra, Thane, and Orin navigated through the city with caution, each step taking them closer to the heart of Glevum, where the final confrontation loomed. The air was heavy with the scent of magic, a precursor to the storm of shadows about to descend. In the city's central square, they found it transformed. Shadowy figures, the vanguard of Nero's forces, had already begun their siege, their forms blending with the night, making them almost invisible. The once vibrant square was now a battlefield, silent but for the occasional clash of steel against dark magic. Alar's heart raced as he saw familiar faces among the shadows, city guards, and even some citizens, their eyes blank, under Nero's control. Betrayal stung as they recognized allies turned enemies, their movements mechanical, driven by a force beyond their will. The battle began without words, a dance of light and shadow. Alar, with his sword, cut through the darkness, each strike sending shards of light into the shadows, freeing some from Nero's grip. Thane, with his strategic mind, focused on breaking the formations, his blade a beacon in the gloom. Lysandra, with the orb of clarity, chanted spells of purification, her light pushing back the darkness, revealing the true faces of those controlled, their expressions shifting from blank to horrified as they regained control. Orin, with the winds at his command, created barriers of air, redirecting the dark magic back towards its source, but the shadows seemed endless, a tide that kept coming. Amidst the chaos, a figure emerged, one they knew too well, a high counselor of Glevum, someone they had trusted. His eyes were now those of Nero's puppets, his actions betraying his previous allegiance. With a heavy heart, Alar engaged him, their duel a tragic dance, each blow a plea for redemption. The counselor, momentarily breaking free from Nero's grasp, whispered, "Save the city. From him." Before falling to the ground, his last act one of defiance against the darkness that had consumed him. As the battle raged, the shadows began to coalesce around a central point, forming a dark vortex from which Nero emerged, his presence a void that seemed to swallow light. With him came a surge of power, the shadows becoming more aggressive, more real. Lysandra, seeing the tide turning, made a critical decision. She directed the heart of Glevum's energy through the orb, amplifying its purifying light. The ground trembled, the light expanding in a wave, pushing back the shadows, revealing the true devastation of the battle. Thane, seizing the moment, led a charge towards Nero, his blade aimed at the heart of the darkness. But Nero was ready, his power manifesting in tendrils of shadow that sought to ensnare them all. In the climax of the battle, Orin, using all his might, summoned a windstorm, not just of air but of time and memory, the winds howling with the voices of Glevum's past, weakening Nero's hold. As the light from the heart of Glevum and the orb reached its peak, Nero's form began to waver, his control faltering. The shadows around him started to dissipate, the city slowly reclaiming itself from the grip of darkness. But the victory was Pyrrhic. The square was littered with the fallen, both friend and foe, the cost of freedom steep. Alar looked around, the weight of leadership and loss heavy upon him. The battle had been won, but the war, he knew, was far from over. With Nero driven back but not defeated, the group prepared for what would come next, their resolve hardened by betrayal, their spirits lifted by the light of hope and the indomitable will of Glevum. The aftermath of the battle left Glevum in a state of eerie calm, the city's buildings standing like silent witnesses to the night's horrors. The shadows that had cloaked the city were gone, but the air was thick with the scent of magic, spent and lingering. Alar, Lysandra, Thane, and Orin gathered in the remnants of what had once been the council chamber, now a makeshift command center. "We've driven Nero back, but he's not vanquished," Alar stated, his voice firm despite the fatigue that weighed on them all. "He'll return, stronger, if we don't end this now." Lysandra, examining the orb of clarity and the heart of Glevum, nodded. "The heart's power can be channeled across the city. We need to prepare for his counterattack." Thane, scanning the maps they had laid out, drew a line from the central square to the outskirts where the old catacombs lay. "Nero will likely retreat to the catacombs to regroup. We hit him there. We might end this." Orin, his connection to the wind still strong, added, "The winds tell of a convergence, a moment when all the ley lines of Glevum will align at dawn. That's our chance to strike with the full power of the city's magic." As they planned, a messenger burst in, breath ragged. "There's movement in the catacombs, shadows gathering. It's as if they're drawing in all the darkness of Glevum." With no time to lose, they rallied what remained of Glevum's forces, those who had survived the night's battle. They moved under cover of darkness, their steps silent but purposeful, towards the catacombs where the final confrontation would take place. Upon reaching the catacombs, they found them already teeming with shadow creatures, but this time there was a palpable fear among them, a sign that Nero's control was not as ironclad as before. "We need to reach the heart of these catacombs," Lysandra whispered, her eyes on the orb. "The alignment of the ley lines will happen there." They fought their way through, Alar and Thane leading the charge with swords that now seemed to cut through shadows with ease, thanks to the blessings of light from the heart of Glevum. Oren's winds guided them, pushing back the darkness, while Lysandra's magic cleared paths through the gloom. At the deepest chamber, they found Nero, his form no longer human, but a swirling mass of darkness, his voice a cacophony of whispers. "You think you can defeat me with your light? I am the end of all light." Alar stepped forward, his voice resolute. "You're the end of nothing. Glevum stands, and we stand with it." The battle was fierce, each strike of light against shadow echoing through the catacombs. Nero unleashed dark energies, but the power of Glevum's ley lines began to converge, the dawn approaching outside, bringing with it the moment of alignment. Lysandra, with the orb held high, began the ritual, her voice chanting ancient words, the heart of Glevum resonating with every syllable. The light intensified, a beacon in the darkness, piercing through Nero's defenses. Thane, sensing the shift in power, attacked with renewed vigor, his blade now glowing with the combined might of the city's magic. "For Glevum!" he shouted, his blade finding its mark, causing Nero to falter. Oren, with a final gust of wind, dispersed the remaining shadows, their forms disintegrating as the light from the ley lines filled the chamber. "Let the winds of change sweep away the darkness," he declared. As the first rays of dawn touched the catacombs, the alignment was complete. The light from the heart of Glevum exploded outward, not just in physical light, but in a wave of pure magic, washing over Nero, his form unable to withstand the purity of Glevum's essence. With a scream that sounded like the end of night, Nero dissolved into nothing, his darkness consumed by the light, the shadows around him vanishing as if they had never been. Silence fell, heavy and profound, as the group stood amidst the remnants of their battle. The catacombs, once a place of dread, now felt like a sanctuary, cleansed by the dawn. "We did it," Lysandra said, her voice filled with awe and relief. "Glevum is free." Alar looked at his companions, the weight of their journey etched on their faces. "But at what cost? We must rebuild, not just our city, but our trust, our unity." Thane, sheathing his sword, offered a weary smile. "We'll rebuild stronger, with light where there was once shadow." Oren, feeling the winds now carry whispers of hope, added, "And we'll remember this dawn, where humanity proved that light can indeed conquer darkness." As they emerged from the catacombs, the city of Glevum greeted them with the first true light of day, its people emerging, their faces turned towards the sun, a symbol of their victory, of humanity's resilience, and the dawn of a new era.